my pick was BrightBurn. It is kind of a, or not kind of, it is a horror take on what if Superman landed here, and instead of being the good old, country American boy, if he grew up being evil, turned to evil instead of using his gifts for truth, justice, and the American way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not supposed to say the American way anymore, but
What is the saying now? I can't remember.
I don't even know the new
Oh,
saying.
truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, or something like that.
That's not as good. Sorry,
No.
everywhere else that's not the United States. Can't say America because Canada's technically America. Mexico's America.
And
So,
everybody that writes comics hates America, so they can't be
America,
portrayed in a positive
fuck
light.
yeah. Coming to save the motherfucking day now.
They know. All right, so yeah, Roy from The Office was in it. He was the
That's his
dad.
name from The Office. I tried all week and I didn't want to look it up. I was like, I'm going to remember this guy's fucking name.
Yeah, I do that all the time where I'm like, I'm not looking it up. Sometimes I'll go like I'm gonna look it up because my mind starts overloading it, and I want to get it before I read it. So usually it'll come to me right before I see it. So then Elizabeth Banks was the mom, and
You got Badger as his uncle. That's
mhm,
all I know
mhm.
him. I mean, I know him from the Kevin Smith movie as well when he played that cop in, what was it? Uh, not Tusk. The one
Was it
before
Red
Tusk.
State?
Yes. He,
Okay, I've
he,
only seen Red State once, so I don't even remember him being in there. But I don't know if I knew him at the time, so he
I,
didn't stick out.
I vaguely like knew him because it's when I started getting into Breaking Bad. And I was like, oh, that's Badger.
Yeah, I was a latecomer on Breaking Bad, so great
But
show.
those three people are the ones that I recognized as like I know these people. Everyone else, I don't know if I know them. I can't place them in anything in my head.
Hmm. At the
And
very end, Michael Rooker
he
is in it.
is.
That last scene. James Gunn had also had Michael Rooker and Elizabeth Banks were both in Slither, which is a horror movie that James Gunn did back in the day.
I did like.
Also, I did not realize James Gunn did not direct this. I thought this was a James Gunn directed movie, but he did not direct it. He produced it. Brian and Mark Gunn wrote it. Assume those are his brothers. Director was a guy named David Yarovesky. Good job though. I thought the direction, I thought the shots, I thought the music, I thought everything was good. I thought all that stuff worked.
I do. I
Um,
have a question for you
let's have it.
because I think this. I think this is what set the tone for him to be like, if he's gonna go good or he's gonna go bad.
Okay.
Was when him and his dad were out hunting, and his dad was like trying to give him the talk. He's like about masturbation in his body,
Mm-hmm.
and his
Mm-hmm.
dad says something to the extent of like, pretty
Like
much
that's okay.
like that's okay, and it's like it's your choice, pretty much, and like kind of like telling him to like act upon it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the way he worded it made it sound like, you know, it's okay to be bad.
Yeah, whatever you want to do, it's fine.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if he worded that differently, maybe Brandon would have been like lean more towards being good. But I was like, I think that triggered him to like, you know what, I can be bad.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about that, but that does make a good point. That was actually one of my things. I was wondering why this movie wasn't bigger than it was, and why there wasn't a green light on a sequel like immediately, because it came out in the height of like the MCU popularity. Where comic book movies where everybody was going to see them, multiple times. The movie was made on a 17.3 million. I'm sorry, a $6 to $7 million budget.
Yeah.
So low cost to make it. It only made 32.8 million worldwide, I mean, I know horror movies generally gross less, but I mean, it's so closely tied into a comic book. You got James Gunn, who just did the Guardians movies that were great. So I'm wondering why it didn't get bigger.
I I don't remember there being a whole lot of promotion for it.
Not a lot, but I
And
mean, anybody on YouTube, I saw a promotion for it on YouTube constantly.
and I also think it's one of those things where like us knowing Superman and knowing like this is Superman if he went bad instead of good, like we know that.
Mm,
But I think the general audience that was going to see comic book movies, that don't know, I think they seen that and just seen it as like, oh, they're trying to capitalize on action heroes and they're just trying to make a scary movie with an action hero.
mm,
Probably not knowing like, no, this is this is the story of the greatest comic book hero.
mm.
Not to me.
Well, yeah, but also there's a lot of movies that don't start that strong, but then by word of mouth, they pick up steam. Like, why weren't people talking about the people that did go see it? Because obviously, I mean, 32 million, $33 million is not a little, it's not a no amount of money. A lot of people saw it, but
Yeah,
they didn't go tell other people to see it or weren't convincing enough, I guess. So I was trying to think about it because I like the movie overall. I think it's great. But I'm trying to think what is the reason that it didn't connect. And I'm thinking that we didn't get a big chunk of his life because by the time we know Brandon, he's a little weird, in school. He's the outcast in school, and then he gets his powers, and the voices start talking to him like immediately. So he's already on the verge of going bad, like right away. So I think that they should have shown his upbringing a little bit more. I know he's only 12, but Superman's upbringing is the reason that he's a good guy. It's the morals that were instilled in him by the Kents.
yeah,
So, but he also, to my knowledge, I haven't read every comic book story. His ship wasn't beaming messages into his head and like
no,
playing with his mind. So, did Brandon have a chance at all of not going bad? But they didn't
it,
show us his upbringing. So, maybe they just didn't do as good a job as the Kents, but maybe they didn't want to do that because they wanted the parents to be likable. I don't know. But I think we missed out on a big part because we don't know who Brandon is. So I feel that there's no connection. The only connection that you have is if you already know Superman and you know
yeah,
this is his take on Superman.
yeah.
So the common man doesn't get that because there is no reason to be connected with Brandon because he starts to go off the deep end immediately.
They they definitely did rush it, banking on people like probably thinking like who doesn't know Superman, who doesn't know his
The
upbringing,
origin story. Yeah, yeah.
and they briefly try and touch on it throughout the movie, but like they don't do a good job of it where they're like, we raised him nice, he used to be such a good boy.
Yeah, yeah, but that's that show don't tell thing, like, where
Yeah,
possible, show that happening and not telling it. The movie was an hour and a half, and it could have been longer. Like I think a longer cut with some more of that portion of his life would have been beneficial to the reception of the movie.
the touching back on the Michael Rooker thing too. Um, they also played it off as like that version of Aquaman is
Yes,
evil.
yes.
That version of Wonder Woman is evil.
Yeah.
So I,
So yeah, why did this not immediately spark interest and we get a sequel that's got the evil version of Wonder Woman, the evil version of Aquaman, and then whoever else they want to bring out? Like, I thought the horror elements were good. I thought it was shot well. I thought a lot of the kills were unique. The practical effects they used were really good. Like the well, I don't know if it's practical, maybe it's CGI, but the glass coming out of the eye was crazy, and also Badger's face
oh, when his
at
jaw was like just
yeah, it was like
falling off.
hanging off. Like
it
it looked good. It looked really good.
didn't
Um,
look CGI.
yeah,
Like
no, that one was definitely practical. The Badger one that was definitely practical. Um, yeah, it'd been a minute since I think I watched it twice when it first came out, and I haven't watched it since. There's a lot I didn't remember. with him going to his aunt's house and kind of threatening her and then hiding in the closet. I didn't remember that. I thought Badger just ran into him on the way home. I didn't realize that he saw him hiding in the closet and drug him out and threw him in the truck and was like, I'm taking you home. I didn't
Yeah.
remember that happened. I'm like, dang, that's crazy.
I remembered it different too. I remembered it as he was driving home from the bar
Yeah,
and Brandon was flying and hit him, and he was kind of like, "What the fuck was that?" and
yeah.
stopped, and then seen Brandon in the road and was like, "Yeah, what the fuck is this?"
Mhm.
That's how I remembered that playing out. I didn't remember him, like you said, coming home kind of drunk and fucking getting
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah, it's funny. My son, I was watching this, and my son was on the bed on his phone, watching his videos, and then Badger goes, "What the fuck?" And then my son throws down his phone and runs over to my phone, and he's like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "God dang it!"
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like you don't want to laugh, but it's like it's funny and cute, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
and
you know it's not good.
yeah, and he's not really verbal, so I enjoy anytime he says anything. Yeah, it was funny. We're like, dang it, why you gotta say that?
We I was watching wrestling, and you know Seth Rollins. He go, they call him Seth frickin' Rollins.
Yes, yes.
It's like I'm sitting there and Harley's next to me, and we're watching, and she's like, "Oh, who's that?" And I was like, "That's Seth Rollins." And then Michael Cole is like, "Seth frickin' Rollins," and she's like, "Seth fucking Rollins." And I was like, "No, no." I was like, "That's what he wants it to be, but he can't have it be that." But I was like, "You're
Yeah,
not
let's not get
wrong.
in the habit of saying that.
You're not wrong, but you don't say that. Hey, you
uh,
don't say that."
oh, don't say that. Don't say that. No, I love the horror elements. I'm pretty sure I put together that his symbol is his initials, but I don't know
Yeah,
because I feel like I had a revelation of that while I was watching this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Did I know? And I couldn't remember. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. But I mean, all the doodles and all the stuff in that he was drawing, I mean, it was all evil the whole time. So I don't know that he ever had a chance of not being evil. I also didn't remember how creepy he got with that girl from his school.
that's what I'm saying. Like if his dad didn't tell him like it's okay to act on him, would he have
Hmm.
done like what he did with her? Like would he have been a fucking like a creeper?
Yeah. Although, if memory serves, so he had a crush on that girl because these guys were picking on him because he was smart, and she turns around to defend him, and she says something to him like, "Smart guys are gonna rule the world" or something like that. And then he appreciated that. And he like smiled at her, and she was like, and then turned back around. It's like, why'd you even turn around and defend him? Like, all he did was smile back at you, you know. That was if memory serves, that it happened. That happened, but I don't remember 100% off the top of my head.
We'll go with that's what happened. 100%.
And then, so whenever the parents start to become suspicious of the powers and of him doing bad stuff, the dad mentions that he's never bled, he's never gotten sick. I kind of think that would have came up earlier, just in amazement, like, oh my god, my son's 12 and he's never. They'd be talking about it all the time, or that would have stuck out to them earlier. I don't know. It just seems to me like it would, but
I mean, they knew he was an alien though.
that's true. I mean, that is true.
I was like, if I had an alien kid, I wouldn't think the normal things like, hey, you've never been sick. I'd be like,
That's fair.
I'd be more worried like, what the fuck are you gonna infect me with?
Hmm. I actually gave. Do you remember whenever we started talking about Highlander, and I said I had a dream or a nightmare about Highlander?
Yeah,
Almost the same thing happened in Brightburn. I won't say exactly what it is now. I'll wait for the Highlander review to reveal that. But there was a scene that something very similar happened in my nightmare that I will tell you later. Um, okay, so we find out that his ship is the only thing that can hurt him, right? So
yeah,
that's the tie. That's his kryptonite. And I think it is so awesome and crazy and scary that the only person knew that ship could hurt him was his mom. She's dead. Now, nobody knows that that's the only thing that can hurt him. They don't know it exists. They don't know where it's at. So that's
yeah.
crazy. It's like, Yeah, I'm sure there's a comic book storyline out there where a team of people and, researchers can figure it out and somehow realize that's a thing. But it's so impossible to know, off the top of my head. Like I'm like, that's scary because he has no weaknesses now. And there's nobody going to hit another part of his ship isn't going to fall out like the comic books and hit the ground and run into him and he's going to get hurt and everybody's like, oh shit, that ship hurt him. Like they just don't know. And it's just something there. I think that's a chilling like a little undertone to put on it too.
It's definitely it's definitely scary as the viewer knowing like these guys have no way,
Mm,
essentially have no way to stop them.
yeah. And Elizabeth Banks, though, her attempt of killing him at the end, what a weak attempt. She's giving him a hug and she's going to stab him in the back. Yet she has to slowly lift her arm like way back behind her head like this. It's like just go like that. But no, she has to so he can feel her obviously reaching way back. And then the way he killed her was really cool too. Like he busts through the barn, he flies straight up in the air with her, so she's all tore up from her face busting through the roof, and then he just takes her up super high and drops her. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool.
A few seconds before when she was trying to kill him, she didn't. She was like, "I have to kill you," but right before she got let go, she was like reaching up as if it was. She was like, "Oh, my baby boy." Like you were about to fucking kill him. He's not your
Yeah,
baby
but she knows
boy.
she's gonna die now too, and she loved him. Regardless, she loved him.
I think
You know.
I think if I had an alien kid and even if I loved him, if they flew me up in the atmosphere like that, that love would go away like instantly. I'd flip it off like a
Yeah.
switch. I'd be like, I fucking hate you. I hope there's an
Imagine Army
afterlife.
right now coming in the room and grabbing you and flying you up into the air.
I'd be
Like
like,
I'm gonna drop you once we get high enough. Your love is gone immediately.
yeah. I'd be like, it turns to instant hate. I'd be like, I fucking hate you. I hope somebody figures out that that ship is what's gonna hurt you, and I hope they fucking kill you.
Oh yeah, that's nuts too. He just saw the plane flying and he freaking takes out the entire plane. He took out his barn so that everybody thinks the mom and dad are just dead from that incident and stuff like that. That was pretty smart thinking from that kid. I just wish, again, I wish we had the time to connect to him before he got evil. I think that's the only thing holding this movie back.
Yeah, everything felt rushed, but it also felt like there was not enough of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, there you go. It ran at a really quick pace. It was never boring. Um, but yeah, it just feels like there wasn't enough. It could have been longer. Like the average movie is longer now. It used to be 90 minutes, and I loved that. But now they're longer, and with that story, it needed more time.
I think Brightburn would have played better as a TV show
I could
if they
definitely
could
see
take
that.
that
But I
and
mean, it did have a low budget. I mean, it takes
like
you get for the amount that they made that movie, they could make 2 1/3 episodes of She-Hulk.
if they not like a full on running season
No,
like
no, hold on, hold on,
where
hold on, hold on. I was 100% wrong. For the money that they made Brightburn for, they could make 4 of those for 1 episode of She-Hulk. Because it was 25 million an episode for She-Hulk. I think it might have been 250, but I'm pretty sure it was 25. I was thinking
still a lot.
2.5 at first, but no, that's wrong. Yeah, so they made theirs for 6 to 7 million. They could make that movie 4 times to equal 1 episode of She-Hulk. So yeah, they could have done that as a show.
Do it like as a just a limited run show, like yeah, we're only doing
Yeah, like
one season of this,
1 or 2 seasons, and that's it. Like knowing from the beginning, that's it.
but we're gonna like 10 episodes and we're gonna get into it. So you got 10 hours of building this
Limited.
story.
Yeah, yeah.
It could
I,
have
I,
been
I
way
think
better.
it. I think it could have worked, or maybe some flashbacks peppered throughout. I don't know.
For things like that, I think that would be the better route to go. You could stretch your money
Mhm.
out even more.
Yeah,
And
and I mean, where there are some recognizable actors in there, they're not A-listers, so they're not commanding that top tier money.
yeah,
You know, so I think it would have been doable, and it probably would have translated better. And I do have one piece of one fun fact here. The school that they used to shoot the school scenes were the same school that they use in Stranger Things
I did not know that.
in seasons 1 and 2, anyway. Yeah, just a fun fact. Oh, and also they mention Brightburn being in Kansas, and I think Smallville is in Kansas also. So
Yes.
so that was just another tie-in of a Superman tie-in. So he landed in the same state as Superman did.
Okay. I can't. At first, I was gonna try and like do a like a maybe it did so bad because of this, but it didn't. Or
No.
uh, you know, I was gonna say like maybe COVID affected it. Maybe it released,
Well, it
but
did release around COVID. That is true. But still,
if
why didn't it get a sequel? Why didn't it blow up on digital? Why isn't the streaming numbers out of this world? So like at least I think it came out on HBO Max. Like why isn't HBO Max like let's make a sequel to this because people want to see it? If they
in
were watching it that much, then they would have done that. That's why they made the Snyder cut because people wanted it.
it came out in May 24th, so it came out earlier in the year. And I didn't
And in
think,
2019,
yeah, and I didn't think,
okay, so yeah, that's probably not the problem.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I was gonna try and defend it that way, but when I seen the release date, I was like, no, COVID was like at the end of the year.
Mm. But hey, I mean, like, it didn't make that much money, but it freaking 5 times the budget. So it definitely did what they wanted to do. They made their money back and then some. So that's all good. And it's a good movie. It's well put together. The visual effects are good. I think the music's good and works with it. I like the horror scenes. The scene of him flying around the house and killing that cop, and terrorizing his mom and then killing that cop. Which, again, I've seen this movie multiple times, but I didn't even realize at one point when the mom's hiding, you see in the corner of the screen him killing that cop. He gets in this one room and you just see him flying around the room and hitting every wall in a circle. And I'm like, oh crap, I didn't notice that the last times I watched it. So that was cool.
Yeah, the the thing I didn't really like too much was his costume design.
Hmm.
I it's just the shirt he wears, just like the striped shirt. I was like, can you put on something
Yeah, I guess that's
different?
true because even in his drawings, like the mask is cool, but even in the
Yeah.
drawings, he was just wearing a striped shirt. Yeah.
I was like,
Well, I also read a fact that like in Smallville, they had him dressing in blue and red and yellow, but just not like the Superman costume. So that's why his shirt is blue and yellow striped. But they could have had it just be a blue and yellow shirt that's different from a horizontally striped shirt.
yeah. I
I thought the
just,
mask was cool looking though, and something that a kid could design.
yeah. I mean, it definitely looks like something a kid would do.
Yeah,
I just, I didn't
but
like
how do
the
you come up with
shirt.
that mask but not a better shirt?
Like, it looked like possibly his baby blanket was his cape.
Yeah, it did kind of look like that type of a thing, like kind of a woven blanket, a woven baby blanket, a blankie.
Yeah.
I liked it though, and I would 100% watch a sequel. But if we're giving out a rating for this movie because of that, I feel like it's missing that big chunk of his upbringing. I'm gonna have to go. Oh, let's see. What is my rating scale gonna be for this? Because I has many funny things to use because it's not a comedy.
Yeah.
I will go with 3.5 pieces of glass right in the eyeball. So better than average, but definitely not in that top tier.
I'd probably give it the average of like three. It's okay to masturbates.
All right. Well, there you go. That is Brightburn.